If A equals minus 2, 2, B equals 1 minus 2, and C equals 1, 3, find the circumcenter of the triangle ABC, i.e. the point of intersection of the perpendicular bisectors of the sides. So if we have a look at a circle, so here we have a circle drawn in blue, and we have a triangle A, B, C that is inside of the circle. Then the perpendicular bisectors can be seen in orange. So perpendicular means that they meet at right angles, and bisector means that they cut the sides in half. So they meet the sides at right angles and they cut the sides in half. So we're interested in the point of intersection. So we're going to start off by getting the midpoint of AB. So that would give us a point that is on the perpendicular bisector, because the perpendicular bisector cuts the side AB in half. So therefore it must go through the center of AB. So using the midpoint formula, we end up with minus 2 plus 1 over 2, which gives us minus a half, and 2 minus 2 over 2, which gives us 0. So the midpoint of AB is minus a half, 0. Next, we're going to get the slope of AB. So again, we use the point A and B. So minus 2, 2, and 1 minus 2. We use the slope formula, which is y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. We get minus 2 minus 2 divided by 1 plus 2, which is minus 4 over 3. So if the slope of AB is minus 4 over 3, then the perpendicular slope, the slope of the line that's perpendicular to AB, which happens to be our perpendicular bisector, is going to be positive 3 over 4. So we turn 4 over 3 upside down and we change the minus to a plus. So the slope of the perpendicular bisector is 3 over 4. So we have a point on the perpendicular bisector on the orange line, and we have the slope. So we can use both of those to get the equation of the orange line. So the equation of the perpendicular bisector, so we're going to use the equation of the line formula. So we end up with y minus 0 equals 3 over 4 times x plus a half. So we've used this point for x1, y1, and this slope for m. We get 4y equals 3x plus 3 over 2. So we got that by multiplying across by 4 to get rid of the fraction. And then we multiply across by 2 to get rid of the 3 over 2, to get rid of that being a fraction. So we get 8y equals 6x plus 3. And then rearranging to get the x and y on the left and the constant on the right, we get 6x minus 8y equals minus 3. Now you can rearrange this again to get the y on its own, so that the line is in the form of y equals mx plus c. So we would bring the 6x over the equal sign, we'd get minus 8y equals minus 6x minus 3. And then dividing across by minus 8, we would end up with y equals 3 over 4x plus 3 over 8. But any of these answers will do. So the equation of this perpendicular bisector, the orange line, the perpendicular bisector of AB, is 6x minus 8y equals minus 3. Now we do the exact same thing with BC. So if point B is 1 minus 2 and point C is 1, 3, we're going to use those points and the midpoint formula to get the midpoint of the line, which happens to also go through the perpendicular bisector of that line. So using the midpoint formula, we end up with 1 plus 1 over 2, which gives us 1 for the x value, 3 minus 2 over 2, which gives us a half for the y value. So now we have that point, the midpoint of the line BC, which also happens to go through the orange line, which is the perpendicular bisector of BC. So we need to come up with the equation of the perpendicular bisector. So similar to the last equation, we need to start off by getting the slope of the line BC. So B is 1 minus 2, C is 1, 3. We'll label x1, y1, x2, y2. We're going to substitute into the slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We get 3 minus minus 2 over 1 minus 1, which gives us 0. Because 1 take away 1 is 0, and anything divided by 0 we cannot do, so we just have 0. So basically we have no slope. It turns out that the line BC would actually be a vertical line, so there is no slope. But for the moment we can say there is a slope of 0. That's technically incorrect because a horizontal line would have a slope of 0. But just for the sake of showing the working out, I'm going to use the slope to be 0. So we're then going to use the equation of the line formula. So our point is 1 comma a half, so we label that x1, y1. Our formula is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. We swap the y1 for a half, we swap the x1 for 1, and m for the moment I'm going to call it 0, but really there is no slope. So y minus a half equals 0 times something, so this will just cancel. Everything on the right hand side will just cancel out, it does not exist. So we have y minus a half equals 0, so therefore y is equal to a half. So the slope of the line is y is equal to a half. So this is, or the equation of the line is equal to a half, is y is equal to a half. So this is the equation of this orange line here, the perpendicular bisector of BC. But we can rearrange it so that we don't have a fraction. And we basically just multiply both sides by 2. So we get 2y is equal to 1. So the equation of our orange perpendicular bisector of BC is 2y is equal to 1. So we know that the equation of the perpendicular bisector of AB is 6x minus 8y equals minus 3. And we know that the equation of the perpendicular bisector of BC is 2y is equal to 1. So to find the point of intersection, which is the circumcenter of the triangle, we need to solve them simultaneously. So we're just going to write out the first equation, which is 6x minus 8y equals minus 3. And the second equation, 2y is equal to 1, we're going to multiply by 4. So we have 8y is equal to 4. The 8y's will cancel. So we have 6x is equal to 1. So x will be equal to a sixth. And then subbing x into one of the equations, doesn't matter which one, we'll get y is equal to a half. Thus D, the circumcenter of our triangle ABC, is a sixth comma a half. So the circumcenter is the point of intersection of the perpendicular bisectors of the sides.